During World War II?
At that time, he was in dental school, and his grandfather was a chef.
Mm.
And
So he had a lot of family already over here, actually.
well, he had a grandpa and grandma and an aunt and an uncle. And they had 2 children at that time.
Oh, gotcha. So then he ended up coming over.
And so what happened was the Japanese throughout the country were told to get on the buses.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore they left everything they had behind. And they were put in those camps where they were locked up in there.
Mm-hmm. Throughout the time of the war.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They were locked up from about 1941 to 1945.
Mm-hmm.
And his grandparents and uncle were put in this camp that was in eastern Colorado. It was about 12 miles from where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
And when we would go shopping, we would pass there. But we never really thought how much pain and sorrow there must be in that place, because a majority of the people were citizens of the United States.
They had done like nothing wrong or anything.
Yeah. So then it came the end of the war.
Uh-huh.
And they open the gates, and they tell the people that they're free to go.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you go?
They had like no home or nothing
They
anymore.
lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so because when they were in the camp, they were forced to grow their own crops, their food production, and I suppose the meat as well. And so the government took lands out around that camp.
Uh-huh.
And so you would see them going in the trucks out to the fields.
Mm.
So when it was over, there wasn't much use to go back to California.
Like where they had originally been from and stuff.
And so his family decided to settle there in that eastern Colorado and do truck farming, like cucumbers and onions and cantaloupes and potatoes. And so they leased land from people and started growing those crops.
Mm-hmm.
And then the trucks would come and and buy the vegetables and things.
Mm-hmm.
So at a point, Grandpa decided he was going to ask his grandson to come over and perhaps go to school and to help in the truck farms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when Johnny came to do that.
To help out with the family and everything.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So then he went to the school where I was at to learn English and some of the other things to make him more prepared to go to college.
Like adapting to the American culture and everything.
Yes, yes.
And what year was that? That was
about 1950, maybe.
Oh, around 1950. So almost 10 years from that, or from like the start of everything.
Yeah, the war started about 1940 or 41.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the prejudice was still
Still
pretty
everywhere.
strong,
Mm-hmm.
which was not fair because these people hadn't done anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was, but anyway,
Mm-hmm.
one day we were, I was in the 8th grade at that time, and the principal of the school brought Johnny around and introduced him to all the classrooms.
So
And
y'all end up going to the same school, actually, or?
well, that little town
Mm.
only had one school.
Oh.
They were all, the high school was on the 2nd floor and elementary on the bottom floor.
Mm.
And, but it was a really good school.
Mm-hmm.
We had a good principal. And when Johnny came in San Francisco, there was something wrong with his papers.
Mm.
So they wouldn't let him come on in. They took him to somewhere in San Francisco where he was locked up.
Oh, they actually like put him like in jail almost?
It was a big building and it was like a jail.
Oh.
And he got really frightened there because some of the people seemed to have been there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But his grandpa and his uncle went to the principal of the school, and he helped, and they contacted Colorado senators and got them to help. And so they got the paperwork straightened out so he could come on in.
Man.
So then the principal introduced him to everybody. And so we brought him to the 7th and 8th grade room and introduced him there. And the strangest thing happened. It was like I had a little whisper in my ear, and it said, "You will marry him."
Mm.
I thought, how outrageous. Here I am, an 8th grader. I certainly don't know how to speak Japanese, so that's really, really pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought about it again. Anyway, he went ahead and he did what he needed to do to actually graduate from the high school.
Mm-hmm. Because he was 10 years ahead of you, right? Like in age.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
He was born, I was born in 1937.
Mm-hmm.
He was born in 1929.
Oh, so it was like 8 years
Yeah.
then.
So then I went on to high school and he was there and he learned English. There was a really special man who was a German who took him under his wings and really worked with him to help him in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, kind of at the end of high school, he was about 3 years ahead of me, so he was still around. So when prom time came, we did go to the prom together. And Mom and Dad liked him. They didn't have any racial feelings about that.
Very open.
Yes. And he felt good with them. They were not, they didn't treat him as somebody less.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he went to the junior college. I was still in high school.
Mm-hmm. And this was still in Colorado?
Yes, down there in the southeastern corner,
Mm-hmm.
out where the tumbleweeds
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah.
And of course, there wasn't any TV, it was just a very peaceful place to live.
Yeah, yeah.
But it wasn't a very fancy place to live either.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he started going to the junior college. And I guess maybe we dated some during that time.
Were y'all dating when you went to prom together, or was it just more like...
Maybe we were.
Yeah.
You didn't date a lot because there wasn't anything to do. You could drive 20 miles to a movie.
Yeah. 20 miles?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there just wasn't a whole lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
But his grandpa, as I said, was a chef.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one New Year's is a big holiday with the Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
One New Year's, they invited me to come to the house for this New Year's celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all kinds of food on the table. And the one thing that I still remember was they had this red lobster that was on the plate, but the red lobster was like that.
Like the full lobster type thing?
Yeah, it was the full lobster. And the head was up here and tail was up here.
Uh-huh.
I didn't eat any of that because when I was there, I didn't want them ruining that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks pretty.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do remember I did go to their house that one time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember any other time going.
Actually to their house and stuff.
Yeah. And so then, but when he was in junior college, we did sort of what you might call dating.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
Like more so. Mm-hmm.
Once every, who knows how. But he did come to my house quite a bit out there, and he would eat with us. And so then, when I graduated from high school, I decided to come down here to Texas Wesleyan.
To go to college.
Because Vern and Betty were already there. And so I came down here and started college and got me a job. And I look back at it and I can't remember everything. I must have just looked like a country girl that didn't have any spiff about her at all. So then Johnny graduated from the junior college, and he decided to come and go to Texas Wesleyan also.
Oh yeah, because y'all were going together for a little while, yeah.
At that time, yeah, we were sort of writing letters. That was about it.
Oh, like whenever he was... So he was still in Colorado at one point, and you were in Texas for a little bit.
Yes, he was in a junior college up there.
And finishing that, yeah.
And finishing that. And so then, after he graduated, he decided to come to here. So I came down here in 1955. was trying to think. He wasn't down here that year. He must have come because we got married in 1957.
Oh, wow.
So there were about
2 years.
2 years. So I think he probably came down here in 56
Mm-hmm.
and enrolled in Texas Wesleyan, and he got a job that was right across the street from there, which was wonderful
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't have a car.
Oh, so y'all were like sharing a car pretty much.
We didn't have a car.
Oh.
I didn't have one, he didn't have one.
Gotcha.
And I rode the buses to and from my work,
Oh.
which was horrible.
Wow.
And because I worked way out on the North Main of Fort Worth, so I had to ride 2 buses.
Jeez.
And I'd go downtown, and then I'd have to get off, and I'd wait until the other one came for North Main.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really hard time. And then it got the hot summer, and here you were riding these buses. The wind was blowing, but it was just hot as fire.
Yeah, hot air.
Oh. But then he had been down here, and he had been going to school. So I would say that he came down here and enrolled in 56.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got married in this summer of 57.
Mm. Did he like propose to you, or did y'all have like a special thing?
No.
Or was it more just?
We began to feel like this is the thing that we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't fancy back then. Not like y'all.
I know, it sounds like a completely different time.
Oh, Lord, have mercy. And then I would get off, when I was looking for a job, I would get off the bus as close to the place I was applying at, as close as I could, but sometimes I would have to walk even 2 or 3 blocks from the bus stop to the company. So you can imagine what I must have looked like in July.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very smart then. I had a job. So I was just getting weary of that. Didn't have a whole lot to eat except bologna sandwiches or something. And I got weary of it, and one night I had the most horrible headache. And I got down on my knees and I said, God, I have got to have a job. I cannot keep doing this.
Yeah.
So I went out the next day, and I went first to one in downtown Fort Worth, and it was a 1-girl office. It would have been a really great place. And so I interviewed, and then the second one was a job out on North Main. So I went out there, and they said right on the spot, well, you can start on Monday. And so I accepted that. When I got home, I had a message that this other place had called, and they wanted me to come to work. That would have been the smartest decision.
Yeah.
Because it was in downtown. But I thought I had given my word to this other company, and that I couldn't change that. And nobody told me different.
Yeah.
I was just going on what I thought. And if you told somebody you were going to do it, then you were going to do it. And so that was a mistake that I made right off when it came to the job thing.
Because it's further away.
Way further
Way further.
away, way further dangerous.
Mm.
And because when I rode the bus in the mornings, I had to ride it at such times that it went. So I would get to work and sometimes it would still be dark.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got off, I had to walk about approximately 2 blocks across a long piece of property to get to the office building. And so I was arriving before anybody else was arriving.
Oh, man.
And one day there was a man lurking there, and I was just this naive kid from Colorado. I didn't know anybody would want to do anything bad.
Uh-huh.
And so all I can know is God must have covered me up with an angel or something because he didn't get me. But when the workers started arriving and they found out what I had encountered, they were just totally upset. And so they changed my schedule so that I didn't arrive before the other people.
Gotcha. Well, that's nice.
But I was just so naive about everything.
That all you knew was around that little town where you came
And nobody ever did anything like that.
from.
You were as safe at night as you were in the daytime.
Yeah.
And so I had a hard time learning to get a grip on the city was not like the farm.
Yeah, definitely.
And I finally began to do that one evening. I was waiting at a bus stop I had been down to our church for some reason, but I had walked 2 blocks to the bus stop, and I was going to catch it and go back up to the college. And this carload of boys came by, and they started to get out of the car. And I was scared out of my wits. And so I jumped up on a house that was there, and I knocked on the door, but I didn't wait for them to open it. I was in that house, and I told them, what was happening. And so that guy came out, and he stood at the bus stop with me until I could. So I gradually began to learn we don't do things like that in the city.
It was like a different culture almost,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. And
Sort of just learned as you went, pretty much.
I had to
Yeah.
because nobody told me much of anything. I look back now, I didn't have any counselor.
Yeah.
I was just flying it on my own. And I wasn't doing a real good job flying. And so, but then Johnny and I got married, but before we got married, he was able to get a car.
Oh, that's good.
And so that worked out things better anyway.
Was it real hard to get cars back then, or was it just like more of a money situation?
It may have been partly a money thing, but what happened was the guy the store where he worked, that man really liked Johnny, and he had somebody in Weatherford that had a car lot.
Oh, I see.
And so he talked to the guy, told him what Johnny needed, and he came up with that car.
I see.
It was a 1950 Chevrolet,
Wow.
like to have it today.
Wow.
It would be a bunch of money
Yeah.
if we had it
If it's
today.
still here, yeah.
It was a very popular.
Wow, that's crazy. That's 70 years, or 71 years ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we did get some transportation, and we could go somewhere
Easier.
other than on a bus.
Uh-huh.
Before that happened,
Uh-huh.
the only place there was to shop was in downtown Fort Worth.
Like where Sundance is and that type of stuff?
At that time, the whole streets were full of stores.
Oh, really?
Just like these malls are. And there'd be shoe stores and clothes stores. And
like way more than there is today.
Oh, yes. There's nothing like it now.
Wow.
And then there was the big Leonard's.
I remember you talking about that, yeah.
Which was the Tandy Center. But it was Leonard's, which was a huge 3-story, maybe, department store.
Gotcha.
And so we would ride the bus down there and get what we wanted. And we didn't even understand racial stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did y'all feel racial tension, like when y'all were together in like the general public? Like, did y'all notice it at all, or?
I don't believe so. I was trying to think.
Like, even just like looks, like did people like look at y'all weird or anything? Especially being that early after the war and everything.
We probably did. I had one lady, when I decided to get married, and that was going to happen. She said, I don't know why you would want to marry him. Haven't you looked at those Japanese people, how they all are all wrinkled up? And I just let it go.
Yeah.
Johnny never got any wrinkles.
I know.
As long as he lived. And so, I know one time the bus was kind of crowded. And we got on, and there was some seats in the back. So Johnny and I didn't think anything about it. We just went
and sat in the back.
Sat in the back. And the black people around us were very upset.
Oh, yeah. So was this the time, this was during civil rights era too, right?
Yes, it was. And there's the black water fountain and the white water fountain. And the blacks couldn't eat, in the normal.
It would have to be in the back or.
And I remember that where they were very upset with us that we came back there and took some of their seats.
When they were limited to just sitting back there already and everything. That's so interesting. So y'all didn't, they didn't look upon him more, or, compared to how they looked at blacks at the time, did they look at him just like that, or did they, it was better than that?
It was better than that. And it's possible that some of them thought something.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be people like that.
Oh yeah, there's still people to this day that are a lot of, yeah. But
are you experiencing that?
I mean, I feel like now it's more discreet, very, very discreet, but there are people out there that are still, have all those beliefs and stuff. It's just, since it's more of a, a stigma almost now, they can't show, their true colors, so it's more hidden versus back then. But yeah, I was curious, how they looked at him since he was dark versus, the black people that were.
No, I don't remember experiencing ever any really negative things, except that one lady.
The lady that outright just said that.
Outright said that. And she didn't know beans anyway.
Yeah. That's normally how it is.
You have to know. It doesn't matter what somebody says. Just let it go.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think. I don't think Johnny experienced that much negativity about that.
Like by the time he had came over here and y'all came over to Texas, it was getting a little more resolved from that era.
Yes, and it was the blacks.
That everybody was so focused on in terms of inequality and everything.
And it was even after we, Mansfield had a horrible racial thing.
Yeah, very. The last desegregated independent school district in the United States.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy.
And I think they brought in the National Guard and a bunch of stuff. But I don't think we really... I mean, somebody might have thought something.
Probably a lot of it went unnoticed by y'all.
Yeah.
Because y'all were more focused within just y'all. Man, that's good though. At least it wasn't as bad, or it wasn't as hard.
It shouldn't be hard. And it should definitely be better.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
I know, definitely.
I don't know why these things get stirred up. I am so frustrated. Like the other day, I was looking on the TV and they were showing this Asian woman, elderly woman, who somebody came along and for no reason at all, just, and it was a black guy. It's the black guys that seem to be doing it. But that's absolutely idiotic. And I don't understand why we're not coming down on it harder.
Yeah. It's very inexcusable.
And the way I saw it for many years, I hadn't really thought there was that much racial thing with the blacks.
Like back then?
But now it's all stirred up again.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why.
Yeah.
But it's blacks that's doing some of the really ugly stuff. The blacks ought to come down on the blacks and say, let's get it right here. But I think Johnny and I were pretty lucky.
Overall, considering how close y'all were to the...
Mom and Dad were very open, and they really treated Johnny well. And I think that's basically why he became a Christian, because he saw Christian people treating him okay. And I don't know why the I don't know why Johnny's people, as well as some others, weren't bitter. Because here they'd spent these 4 to 5 years locked up in this area. But when it came 4th of July, it was Johnny's grandpa who would buy the fireworks for the community.
Even after all of that, yeah.
After all of that. And we could go into town and they would shoot the fireworks off. You would have thought he would have been bitter.
Yeah. Which, it's crazy. like especially like at Pearl Harbor and stuff, it was looking at there's a significant difference between like the imperialistic Japanese that were in the mainland. I feel like in the armies, the ones that were fighting against the
Yeah.
U.S. and stuff, versus like the Japanese Americans and how they had done nothing wrong. They were really great people overall, but it's like just because they were Japanese, they grouped everyone together by skin color and stuff. And
that was a big mistake we made.
Yeah, and it's all out of fear pretty much and everything. But yeah, that's pretty crazy actually. Like especially seeing it like in the museum and stuff like that too.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. Did so y'all ended up getting married in 56.
57.
57. Oh, he came over to Texas in 56.
Yeah, and then we got married in 57.
So you were still at Texas Wesleyan whenever y'all ended up getting married?
Yes. But then after that, I had a full-time job. I was going to school part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got pregnant.
Yeah, during school.
I just couldn't handle
everything together.
So I kept working and quit school then. But he finished and graduated from there.
After he graduated, is that when he went over to Radio Shack?
Yes. After he got he graduated from, graduated, he got a job with a CPA firm.
Oh, a CPA firm?
And he worked for them several years.
Mm-hmm.
But then he got a job at the Fort Worth Club.
Was it like a country club or?
Well, it was downtown Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
The Fort Worth Businessmen's Club. And so he was the accountant there.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked for them for several years. But it was after he got laid off from there, and it was after that that he went to the Radio Shack.
Which was in downtown Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there several years.
Gotcha. And then y'all, did y'all get that house in Fort Worth after y'all got married, or was that a ways out?
Yes, for a time after we got married, my mom and dad came down here from Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And so we rented a house together.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but Mark was born before they came down here.
Mm-hmm. Mark was whenever you got pregnant during the college.
Yeah, Mark was born in 1958.
Mm.
And, but then they came down.
Mm-hmm.
And we rented a house together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mom took care of Mark and
sort of
Tony.
helped out. Mm-hmm.
Mark and Tony.
Gotcha.
And then we moved from that rental house till they bought a house in Kennedale.
Mm-hmm.
And we were still together. And we were just ready to almost put a contract on the house when we had the wreck in Dallas.
Oh.
And so that delayed everything.
Mm-hmm. That was when you first messed up your hip?
Yeah. Well, that's when my right leg was smashed and my left leg was broken.
Mm.
And so that took several months to recover. And then after I got over that, then we bought the house that we lived in Fort Worth.
That my mom lived in with y'all too, or when
Yes.
y'all had her.
Yeah, she was born
Mhm.
when we lived in that house. And then when Madonna was about 10,
Mhm.
we wanted to get her out of that school
The school district and
because
stuff.
it was not safe for her
Mhm.
to be. We were only lived about 2 blocks from it, but it wasn't safe
Yeah.
for her to be walking.
Mhm.
And I was working,
Mhm.
and Daddy was gone.
Mhm.
And so that's when we moved to Mansfield.
Gotcha. And now the house that y'all moved to on Aspen, it was like it had been like a model home or something.
Yes, it was a model home. We had seen it earlier years before
Mhm.
when they first developed Walnut Creek.
Gotcha.
We had driven out and seen that.
Mhm.
But then we were having to hurry to get a place because our house had already sold,
Mhm.
and so we had a short time
Mhm.
because it sold fast.
Uh-huh.
And so then I told Johnny I'd seen this advertisement at that time. There was these advertisements in the paper
Mm.
of houses for sale,
Uh-huh.
just not like now.
Yeah.
And that I'd seen one where you call that, take over a loan.
Mm.
Didn't have to get a new loan.
Uh-huh.
You could just take over the loan that was on there.
Gotcha.
And so I told him I had seen that. Perhaps we could find that
Mhm.
and look at it. And so I was lucky to find the realtor, and she brought us down here. And on the day that we looked at it, we decided it was good.
Mhm.
And so we put a contract on it. And that was a good move
Mhm.
because it put Madonna in a better school situation. And it worked very well.
When she started going to school, had Mansfield already been gone through like that desegregated episode, or was it still
Yes, that was already done.
done?
That wasn't, that was,
It was all settled out
I forget, that was about in 1955.
when that was happening and stuff. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
And she was born 68. Right, yeah. So, yeah, that was a ways out then.
Yes. But God has been good to us.
Mhm.
And that was definitely the house that we needed to.
Mhm. A lot of memories.
A lot of memories there.
Mhm.
And I know it's just a house, but
Mhm.
I feel real.
Yeah. It makes you remember everything when you're there.
I know.
Mhm. I definitely know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Does make a difference.
Mhm.
And Madonna, for the most part, the high school at that time was right behind us over there. That was the high school.
Yeah, what Webster is and all that now. So y'all were like right next to the school and everything.
Yeah.
I know. I can't even imagine like what Mansfield looked like back then. Like
Oh my goodness.
nothing compared to now.
It was pretty much nothing.
Mhm.
Walnut Creek was just a 2-lane piece of pavement.
Oh wow, like one of those like country road looking
Well,
things.
Debbie Lane was the country road,
Oh,
and Walnut Creek was not, it was just 2 lanes.
wow, that's crazy.
We had one grocery store, really,
Mhm.
and one that was kind of, you'd call it a country type grocery store.
Uh-huh. It was like a really small town at
Oh,
that time.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I think we had a Dairy Queen.
Mhm.
We had a restaurant in downtown.
Was it that Dairy Queen that was off the downtown, or it's like right by downtown?
It's the same one.
Yeah, it looks like it was from that time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then there was a restaurant in downtown
Mhm.
Fort Worth called the Bronco or something like that.
Wow. That's
It was
crazy.
crazy.
Mhm.
It's why you didn't eat out much of anywhere.
Yeah, it's completely different. Like just the whole lifestyle and everything that you would have back then. Like no internet, no telephones even weren't really like
No, you would
hardly.
have to stop and find a payphone if you wanted to call home.
Jeez. That is really insane. And then Papa's his Japanese name was it Masao?
Masao.
Masao, is it Masao?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, and
That was his name, but
then he went with Johnny because they gave him a name like an American name, right?
over in Japan he worked for a general.
Oh,
And so the general named him Johnny.
I see. I see. So he was like he spent. How old was he when he came over here? He was. You said he was born in 28.
29.
29, and then he came over.
In 50.
So he was like nearing 30 years old, maybe.
No.
That seems sort of old, actually. Because if he came, you were in middle school when you met him.
Yeah.
So that would put him being like, if he was like in the normal school system, like being out of like a little out of high school, maybe then.
Yeah, because he had finished school in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Like his primary school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But had to go through like the American school system once he became a. Did he get like a green card or was it like an American citizenship all the way back then?
He didn't get the citizenship until, the day that Kennedy was killed.
Mm-hmm.
We were coming out of Dallas ahead of that.
Oh, really?
And we had been to the international something.
Uh-huh.
And we had finished the application for citizenship.
On that day?
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. So y'all were like real close to that when that happened.
We came out right ahead of it. And when we got here, we went to the Sears shopping center,
Mm-hmm.
which was Seminary South.
Mm-hmm.
Seminary South. And over the big speakers everywhere,
Uh-huh.
it was talking about a president being killed.
Wow.
And so we went into the Sears store,
Mm-hmm.
and we asked them, who is it that they're talking about? And they told us that it was our president.
That had gotten assassinated.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, we came out that very street.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Lord has been good to us to get us through a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's really crazy. And then he was basically in Fukuoka most of the time when he was in Japan, like helping out on the farm and stuff like that out
Yeah.
there.
They did have a farm. They did grow rice and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things like that. But he had to work in the factory during the wartime.
To help the Japanese army
Yeah.
have supplies and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm. And you said it was like constant fear of like even before like the atomic bombs dropped and stuff like.
Yeah, you could hear the bombs in the distance and see the fires.
Wow.
And they would hear the stories, of what
Mm-hmm.
was taking place.
Wow.
And, but it finally got over.
Man.
Anyway, it's quite strange that Johnny would come from way over there and me in this little
Colorado town.
Colorado town that only had a grocery store and a post office and
Yeah.
nothing hardly there.
Was he when you all met? Was he like real shy, or did he all like bond pretty quickly, or become friends pretty quickly? I guess since it was a little while.
I'm sure it was a while
Mm-hmm.
because I was only 8th grade.
When you first saw him,
So it was somewhere in high school.
that y'all actually started becoming more
Yeah,
friends, and then
yeah.
going forward after
Of
that.
course, it was a small high school. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my class had about 9 people in it,
Mm.
and no other class had more than that.
9 people?
Yes,
Whoa. That is small.
very small.
Yeah. Wow. Like when I think of small, I think of like 40 people, 50 people, but that's like not even like just one class by itself is like bigger than that.
No, we didn't.